What up guys, Miguel here of YugaTech, and Realme, the manufacturer that keeps packing some great value to accompany their very affordable price, just launched the Realme 5 in our local shores. And in this video, we have the standard Realme 5 for our full review. Spoilers, they've done it again. Okay, so first up we have design. Realme brings more flair this time around with this lineup standard model. Our unit is in the crystal purple color, but there is a blue for those interested. Now, I feel a little bit torn with this back design because I really do appreciate Realme trying something new here to set themselves apart from the rest of the gradient back phones out there. The thing is, every time I give this design a good look, I can't help but think it looks like shattered glass or wow, bagong bili, nabagsak na. So yeah, that is my 2 cents on the design, and it is the most subjective segment of this review. For construction, we get a mostly plastic build thanks to that polycarbonate back. The main quad camera setup is placed on the upper left corner here with the LED flash next to it. On the upper center of the back is a rear-mounted fingerprint scanner. More on that later. In front, we get some kinda thick bezels. I mean, they're not really thick, but they're thicker compared to the other more expensive phones in the market. But for how much this thing costs, I'm really not complaining. The Realme 5, just like its predecessor, also sports a dewdrop notch. In it resides the front-facing camera. Above it is the call speaker. No LED notification light on this device. For buttons and ports, situated on the right side is the power button. On the left, users can find the volume rocker as well as the dual SIM card tray with dedicated microSD card slot. And at the bottom, we get a 3.5mm audio jack, a noise-canceling mic for regular calls, a single downward-firing speaker, and a micro USB port. I mean, if they could put a USB Type-C port on the Pro model, why couldn't they do it with the standard one? Moving on, for display, the Realme 5 sports a 6.5-inch HD Plus IPS LCD panel with a resolution of 1600 by 720. Users shouldn't expect the best media consumption experience from this device. Is it manageable though? Yes. I mean, a display is a display, and if your phone's display doesn't work, there's something wrong with it. Throw it away. For display protection, the Realme 5 gets Corning Gorilla Glass 3 Plus, and that's definitely better than having nothing. I mean, the back is already cracked, so they better protect the front, right? So how is that 720p display really like for media consumption? In my opinion, it's acceptable at best. Of course, if this was my only device, I wouldn't have a problem with watching everything on it. Something I also found interesting was this display gets an aspect ratio of 20:9, which means it crops a bit more when utilizing the full screen to watch something. I'm sure the most loyal Yuga fans out there already know how I feel towards this. I hate the placement. Like, my palm just covers it every time I watch something in landscape, especially if maybe I'm gaming as well. Nonetheless, like I was saying, the actual quality is okay. Lows and mids lack a lot, with slight distortion when volume is maxed out. But again, I'm not too surprised judging by how much the device costs, so really, it's not that bad. For hardware, inside the Realme 5, we get a Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 paired with an Adreno 610 GPU. But you guys should know that this device is also available in a 364 and a 332 configuration as well. For those of you interested in our benchmark scores, having them flash on screen right now. For software, the Realme 5 gets Android 9 Pie out of the box skinned with ColorOS 6 on top. Now, ColorOS really isn't one of my favorites in terms of aesthetics, but what's really great about it is it feels relatively light in terms of power consumption. Another good thing about ColorOS is how easy it is to get comfy with the interface. I find it much more simple compared to something like FunTouch OS, but sometimes it can appear too simple. For biometrics and security, like most phones these days, the Realme 5 gets fingerprint and face unlock. Realme keeps it simple here with the before-mentioned rear-mounted fingerprint scanner, and I really don't have much of a problem with it, and it only has trouble recognizing my fingerprint when it's wet or something. As for the face unlock, it isn't as fast as the fingerprint, but I personally wouldn't use it as much anyway, for it isn't as secure. You get the option to allow the phone to stay locked when your eyes are closed, but even when you aren't necessarily looking at your phone, but it recognizes your face, it unlocks itself, so that's really weird. For battery, powering the Realme 5 up is a huge 5000 mAh cell. We don't really get any form of fast charging, so users may feel it takes a while to charge the phone up. In the PC Mark battery test, our Realme 5 got a rating of 16 hours and 15 minutes. In our standard video loop test, which involves the phone's display and volume set to 50%, airplane mode turned on, and with headphones plugged in, we got a total of 22 hours and 13 minutes of playback. So yes, the huge 5000 mAh battery is great, especially when it's paired up with Color OS. Those scores don't necessarily translate exactly to real-world usage, and that 720p panel definitely constitutes to that strong video loop score. I can definitely see this phone easily lasting you a whole day. Now for the cameras. The Realme 5 gets a quad camera setup consisting of a 12-megapixel main shooter, an 8-megapixel ultra-wide, a 2-megapixel macro, and a 2-megapixel depth sensor. On the front-facing side of things, in the notch resides a 13-megapixel selfie shooter. So, without further ado, let's assess some samples. Okay, so all the samples before you are in the default photo mode. As you can see, they all kind of vary in some way. We still get the usual Realme post-processing we saw from the Realme 3 lineup, and that's a good thing in terms of uniformity. What we still aren't the biggest fans of is chroma boost. I mean, I get it. Some people want to see a little more pop and saturation in their photos, but for someone like me, I might just wanna do that myself when I edit photos before posting. Something this quad camera system doesn't have is a telephoto lens, though with the main shooter you get a fixed digital zoom of up to 5x and you can pinch out to 10x, though I don't think anyone would really want to use that shot. As for the ultra-wide, first of all, I hate the fact that you need to toggle it with a tap instead of being able to just zoom out and get to it. As for the actual photo quality, it can match up with the main shooter kinda well, though come less optimal lighting conditions and it kinda starts to slip. We also get a new macro lens on the Realme 5, and yes, it is a joy to use. I mean, I think so. I'm also aware that not everyone might really take advantage of it, but you know, I enjoyed it, and I do think it's a welcome addition to the camera arsenal nonetheless. Come nightfall, and it's time to bust out night mode. Now, right off the bat, it isn't one of those night modes that can see in the dark per se, but it does work. It balances the shadows and highlights and overall brightens the image. Something we found weird was it crops in a bit when using night mode. We aren't sure of the relevance of this, but yeah, we kinda found that weird. For portrait mode, subject background separation is just as good as the Realme 3 series, no complaints there. For portrait selfies, if you remember in this other video, I found it weird that the Realme device would detect other faces in the background, thus unblurring them and making the portrait selfie look weird. Well, it's actually a feature called group photo the AI likes to do. I personally think it's weird, so I'm not a fan. Nonetheless, subject background separation is just as good as the rear, except for when in that group photo. So yeah. For actual default selfies, image quality from the 13-megapixel sensor is good, not the best, but definitely usable. One area the camera both front and back struggle with are the highlights. It always tends to overexpose the highlights a lot by default, and I'm really not trying to be too hard on this device because of how much it is. But yeah, actually, users thinking to purchase this phone will get great hardware value for what they're paying for. The post-processing might be holding it back a bit, but yes, users should be happy with most of the results in good lighting conditions. The images will come off sharp with some pop and saturation even without chroma boost on. Now, before we wrap this video up, we gotta talk about price. Like I mentioned earlier, the Realme 5 gets 3 configurations. We have the 4128 here priced at 9,990 pesos. The 332, which is a Lazada exclusive model priced at 6,990 pesos, and there's the 364 priced at 7,990 pesos. With either configuration you prefer, you can expect some really great value for under 10,000 pesos, and really, what else is there to say? The Realme 5 is a great entry-level device, and it dethrones our current budget king, the Realme 3. So yeah, that was the Realme 5, and if you're interested in checking out the Pro version of this device, you can check that out right here. But let us know what you guys think of this in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Be sure to smack that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit that bell icon so you get notified of future uploads. Be sure to visit YugaTech.com for the latest tech news and reviews. Again, this has been Miguel, and I'll see you in the next one.